Before any of that, there is Madeira. There is a house with 2 bedrooms and thin walls in Funchal, and a mother who cleans school floors before sunrise, and a father who tends municipal gardens and carries kit bags for a local club on weekends, and a boy who takes a worn ball into the alley outside the house every afternoon and does not come back until it is dark. Nobody out there is watching him. Nobody out there is deciding anything about his future. He is 7 years old, and he is playing because it is the only thing that makes the world feel exactly the right size. The noise of the street disappears when the ball is at his feet. The problems that have no solutions, the thin walls, the money that runs out before the end of the month, the boots that are always a size too big, all of it goes quiet. Just him and the ball and the space between parked cars and the specific feeling of getting something right that he could not get right the time before. That feeling is where the want comes from. Not from ambition in the way people usually mean ambition, not from looking at famous players and deciding he wants to be one, from something more basic than that. From the discovery at 7 years old that there is one thing in the world that makes everything else stop, and the understanding that if you can make a living from that thing, then you will never have to stop doing it, and the world will never have to start again. You are 17 years old, and you are destroying a professional football team in a preseason friendly that nobody is supposed to care about. It is August 2002 at the José Alvalade Stadium in Lisbon, and the men on the other end of what you are doing is Manchester United. And the men in the stands watching you are not scouts with clipboards, they are the players themselves. Rio Ferdinand, Gary Neville, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Men who have won league titles and played in Champions League finals and seen everything the game has to offer, sitting in the stands of a Portuguese stadium on a warm Tuesday evening, watching a 17-year-old kid from Madeira make their right back look like he has never played football before in his life. Every time the right back thinks he has you worked out, you do something different, a step over, a change of pace so sudden it looks like a camera cut, a cutback delivered at a speed that should not be possible from someone your age at this level in a match that does not matter. The stands are reacting to you the way stands react to something they haven't seen before, not just noise, but a specific quality of attention, a leaning forward, a collective holding of breath before each touch. Even the United supporters in the away end, who have no particular reason to be interested in a Portuguese teenager, are watching differently by the second half. Not watching the match, watching you. On the bus to the airport afterward, the United players do not talk about the result. They talk about you. Gary Neville leans across the aisle and tells Sir Alex Ferguson that he has to sign you. Rio Ferdinand says the same. Then the others, one by one, unprompted, all of them arriving at the same name without being asked. Ferguson listens. He doesn't say much. He doesn't need to. He's been managing elite players for 20 years, and he knows exactly what it looks like when a group of experienced professionals, independently, all point at the same thing and say that. He's seen it happen once or twice in his career. Not often. Not like this. You don't know any of this is happening. You're in the dressing room going over the 2 chances you missed and what you would do differently. The call comes 3 days later. You listen. You already know your answer. The fee is £12.24 million, a record for a teenager in English football. You arrive at Old Trafford at 18, and Ferguson hands you the number 7 shirt in a corridor at Carrington, and you hold it a moment longer than is probably necessary because you understand exactly what the list of names attached to it means. George Best, Brian Robson, Eric Cantona, David Beckham. You intend to add your name to that list in a way that nobody forgets, and you intend to do it quickly, and you are already thinking about how while you are still standing in the corridor holding the shirt. The first 2 seasons are the process. The step-over that worked in Lisbon doesn't work in the Premier League in November on a wet pitch against a fullback who has watched it on tape 6 times and is already leaning into the space where he thinks you are going. So you stay late, long after training ends and the other players have gone home to their families and their dinners and their evenings. You stay on the pitch at Carrington in the floodlights, and you practice it at match speed, under resistance, in the cold, in the mud, until it doesn't just work in training, but works when a defender is breathing on you and the stakes are real and there is no room for error. Not until you are tired, until it works. Gary Neville watches you do this on dark evenings when the ground is nearly empty. he will still be talking about it 2 decades later. By your 3rd season, the step-over is the most feared move in the Premier League, not because you invented it, but because you made it reliable under pressure through a volume of practice that most professional players would consider excessive, and you consider the minimum. The goals come, season after season, in volumes that coaches eventually stop remarking on because the numbers have become the expectation rather than the exception. But it's not just the goals that make the want grow around you. It's the whole performance. The way you make a stadium lean forward before you have even touched the ball. The way opposition managers name you specifically in their pre-match press conferences, build their entire defensive plan around stopping you, and then watch you find a way through anyway. The crowd reacts to your name on the team sheet before the match has even begun. There is a hunger in the watching that is different from how people watch other great players. With you, the audience is always waiting for something that hasn't happened yet, always convinced that the next touch, the next run, the next moment will be the one they talk about for years.
Then the season happens, 2007 to 2008. 42 goals across all competitions, the Premier League, the Champions League, a header in a final in Moscow in the rain, a penalty shootout in the dark, Van der Sar diving left and keeping Anelka's shot out, and the United end producing a sound that does not belong to any normal category of human noise. You are 23 years old and you are a Champions League winner. And then the Ballon d'Or arrives, and you hold it in the same hands that used to pull wet newspaper out of boots that were a size too big. And the distance between those 2 moments is 8 years, and it feels like a lifetime, and it feels like nothing at all. Then Real Madrid start calling. They have been calling for a while. The interest is not new. The pursuit has been running quietly in the background for 2 years, through agents and intermediaries and carefully worded statements to the press. And you have known about it, and Ferguson has known about it, and the situation has been managed the way these situations are managed at a club like United. Carefully, privately, with the understanding that the player is committed for now and the future is a conversation for another day. But the future has arrived. You want Madrid. You have wanted Madrid for longer than you have said publicly. The Bernabeu, the white shirt, the scale of the thing, it matches something in you that Old Trafford, for all its weight and all its history and all the noise that 75,000 people make on a European night, does not quite reach. You are 23 and you are the best player in the world, and you want the biggest stage in the world, and the logic of it is simple, even when the execution is not. Ferguson asks you to stay. He sits across from you and tells you that you can become a legend here the way the others did, the way Best did and Cantona did, and he means every word of it, and you know he means every word of it, and you sit there and you listen and you respect him more than you have respected anyone in football, and you tell him you need to go. The room is quiet for a moment after you say it. He does not make it easy. United did not make it easy. The negotiations stretch through the summer of 2008 and into 2009, and the fee climbs with each round, and there are weeks when the whole thing seems like it might collapse, when the gap between what United will accept and what Real will pay seems too wide to close, when the lawyers and the agents and the club presidents are talking past each other, and the deal that seemed inevitable starts to feel fragile, and then more fragile, and then like something that might simply not happen. Then it closes. £80 million, a world record. Nothing like it has been done before in the history of football, and the number alone changes the shape of the conversation before you have touched the ball in Spain. You are not just a transfer, you are a statement. Real Madrid telling the world that they are back, that the era of great individual signings is being rebuilt, that the club willing to pay the most for the best player alive is a club that intends to own the next decade of European football. You walk out onto the Bernabeu pitch on a July evening for the presentation, and 80,000 people are there just to watch you hold up a shirt, and the noise is so loud it becomes physical, like pressure, like weather, like something the atmosphere is doing to you rather than something 80,000 human beings are producing with their voices. You stand in the center circle and raise your fist, and the Bernabeu gives it back to you tenfold. And for one moment everything feels exactly as large as you always believed it would be. The goals come immediately. 33 in the first season, 40 in the next one, then 50 goals in the season after that, 50 goals in 50 games, a number with no precedent in the history of Real Madrid, a number the club historians look up and cannot find a comparison for in over 100 years of records. La Liga titles, Copa del Rey, Champions League nights at the Bernabeu, where the stadium fills 2 hours before kickoff because nobody wants to miss a single minute of what happens when you are on that pitch under those lights against the best clubs in the world. And the want does not stop. It never stops. It follows you like weather, like the number at the end of the transfer fee that newspapers print every time your name appears. Every summer the rumors begin again. New clubs, new fees, new records waiting to be broken. You are the player every president wants in their stadium, every manager wants in their squad, every league wants as its defining symbol, and the want itself becomes part of the story. Not just what you have done, but what everyone believes you are still capable of doing. The sense that wherever you go next, something important is about to happen, and the world should already be watching. In Zurich in January 2013, they hand you the Ballon d'Or, and the room is full of the best players in the world, and 3 years of finishing second are finally behind you, and you hold the trophy up, and you think about the bus to the airport in August 2002, and the men who leaned across the aisle and said the same name and started something that has not stopped since. You are 28 years old. You are the most wanted player on the planet. You have been the most wanted player on the planet since you were 17 years old in Lisbon, making a right back wish he had chosen a different profession. The want began that night on a preseason pitch that nobody's supposed to care about. It has not stopped. It will not stop. One word in the comments, the word for what it feels like to be the thing everyone wants and the only one who knows the cost of it. Just one. Subscribe. There are more lives to live.